Wait, what was I? Oh, I just lost my train of thought. I wanted to ask you both. What do you guys think about? Because you hear Francis talking right now about married priests again, right? Do you think there is a place for a married priesthood? Not, I don't mean universal priesthood marriage, right? Like, I think that if you're already a priest, you can't get married. Like, you took vows of celibacy.
Yeah.
But do you think there is any place for a married priesthood at all? I mean, we already have the ordinariate; they're allowed to get married, right? Now, I understand if you really go back and understand the theology of even priests who were married, they also had to take vows of chastity, like, the wife had to agree to it. So if you really do look into the past, I understand
Continence.
Yeah.
Continent. Oh, yeah. Because chastity, even married people have to have chastity. So continence, right, where you're actually. But now in the East, right, the Eastern churches, they actually do not enforce that, right? They're allowed to have children. They're allowed to. So do you think there's any place in the Roman Rite for a married priesthood?
Well, I've been debating this a good bit. Yes, the short answer is yes, because even in the Latin Rite, you've a few married priests in America, really strong. Father, is it Father Z? Father Z?
Longnecker.
No.
Longnecker, yeah.
Longnecker.
Yeah, I mean, and nobody could accuse that man of being anything other than an excellent priest.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a real leader in the faith. So is there a place in the Roman Rite for married men to step up and be priests? Yes. But I mean, let's not kid ourselves. This is going to solve any problems in the church, and it's going to create a whole list of other problems.
Right. That's 100% right. And you're going to have it's always going to be abused, right? We abuse everything. We always create this little thing because we think it'll help, and then it turns into this mess. It's like everything we do, it turns into that. Like, I really do think there could be, because I think so many married men are so faithful. Right. And it's like they really believe the faith that you could get this segment of married men going in and becoming priests that would actually bring some orthodoxy into things, because it's not it's not a gay club like what you have going on right now, because there really is this situation of a gay club. Like, what you have is once you get the bishops in that if a bishop has that tendency, he's going to elevate other men with that tendency. And then before you know it, it's only men with that tendency being elevated. And that's kind of where we are right now. So you would think if you allowed some married men, but you're 100% right. It would wind up being abused in a way where I really think that the ultimate push is to allow same-sex married priests. Like, that's where they want to go.
I don't think we should consider it as a solution to, some of the problems and abuses, we have. But I think it does need to be looked at as like a possible contingency for just the point in time when we don't have enough priests, which is coming very soon. Right.
It's definitely, and if you look at that radio address Benedict gave back in the 60s, right, where he says, when they asked him about the future of the church, and he says, I think the church is going to lose a lot of its prominence in the culture, and I think it's going to become a smaller church, and I think it's eventually going to be rebuilt by people who actually believe the faith. And he actually goes into what he says about priests. He says, the priests aren't going to necessarily be formed in the seminaries like they are now. You're going to have men that have a day job who are clandestinely becoming priests, and because that was what the early church had to be at first. It was, they were having it in the catacombs. But I really do think that it might not be a year or two away, but I do think as time goes on, you're going to see the church. I mean, look, we all know that the church is going to suffer the same fate of our Lord, following him in his passion, death, and resurrection. So I don't know if that's in the immediate future. It's definitely in the future, no matter what.
Yeah. I suppose the reality, guys, and your family, if you were thinking, okay, a guy has a wife, he's got kids, and he might have a lot of kids, they have to be supported. And, it's just looking after the well-being of priests and families. There's so many issues that will come with I mean, and then, even my wife, now that I'm blogging, or if I'm going to do a talk, or she said, oh, you're away this evening, you're going to that prayer group, or you're doing this, because I do get called on, can you come to us? Can you give us a talk? And I said, oh, okay, I'll do this. And they said, well, Robert, you're never at home. You're all the time. And imagine if I was a priest.
Yeah.
And you're called to last rites, you're called to a funeral, go here. Like your family, like how will you plan your family life? Unless there's lots of people that can take up. It's really not a job that you can just that marries well. That
works well with marriage.
I mean, and I do know in the Orthodox world, because I did work in the East for a while, and I had friends, that were married Orthodox priests, and even there, a lot of the faithful used to tend to go to the celibate monks. So if you go to Mount Athos, all of the monasteries there, they are celibate monks.
So are the bishops. All the bishops in the East are celibate also. Yeah. You can't be elevated to bishop if you're married. So
exactly. So it'll be an interesting debate. I wouldn't rule out the priesthood to married men. That's my personal opinion, but I think it's a discipline that has
a good reason for it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but if the church, I could see it in the sense what I do know, and this is what the Pope will done. He's spoken about this for 4 to 5 years. He's already made his mind up. He's going to put it back to the bishops' conferences and say, look, if you want to ordain proven men, I leave it up to you. The discipline has been removed, and it'll be an interesting time in the church. That's where it's moving. It's going there.
It may lead to that. It may lead deeper into that passion, death, and resurrection. We'll see how it goes. But
putting things to bishops' conferences never go wrong, right?
Oh, nothing. No. But it's going there, guys. Of all the things that the bishop that the Pope can change in the synod. Of all of the things he can't change, he can't ordain women, and he can't, redefine marriage. But he can allow marriage
discipline.
He can do that, and he will do that, guys. We know this is going to happen. Now he'll just shove it back to bishops' conferences. It's like the permanent deaconate. Lots of countries and lots of dioceses have no permanent deacons and have no plan to introduce them, and others have loads of them. So it's going to be that same path. But there's lots of permanent deacons. I would ordain priests personally. I think they're excellent men. I trust them more. But
look, also like married men, like I take my role as a father and husband based on the priesthood, right? Like I am the priest of my home. And I take that role very seriously. I'm constantly trying to be a priest in my home. It's not something that men think about often enough. But we all get, the catechists are terrible in the church and they didn't teach us something. No, you are the primary catechist for your children. Like if your children don't know the faith, that's not the church's fault. That's your fault as a priest and a father. Exactly. So really, we all have to cultivate that in our own families so that it's not even so important. Like if you have good men as priests in the home, then the priesthood will follow our lead in the moment eventually. It should be the other way around, but unfortunately that's not where we are right
now. Exactly. But remember, St. Patrick was the son of a deacon. And
I didn't know that.
So it's the priesthood. He would have come from a line of priests, probably in his family. His grandfather most probably would have been a priest, but his father was definitely a deacon.
Yeah, if anybody wants to go out and get Tim Flanders' last book, it was The City of God versus the City of. Thank you, Angela. I appreciate that.
Well, hold on.
And I don't mean a dumb support. Tim Flanders' last book was The City of God versus City of Man. He actually tells the story of St. Patrick. Now, I had always heard little snippets of the story of St. Patrick, but I had no idea that St. Patrick has like an amazing miracle standoff with the Druids. And if you ever want to really if you guys pick up Tim Flanders' book, it's in the second chapter or something. He tells the story of St. Patrick, and I remember being so moved by it that I couldn't believe that this story has gone out of our normal everyday conversations with other Catholics. It's an amazing story what Patrick did, and that's why Patrick is such a big deal to the Irish. And then we've turned it into this clown, holiday where everybody just gets drunk and, like you said, green beer and stuff like that. But no, St. Patrick literally brought the faith to Ireland, and we forget what the world looked like before Christianity civilized it. They were barbarians and savages, and they were having human sacrifice and all these awful things. And then all of a sudden you bring Christ the King into the mix and you have civilization gets built. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
So